one of the worst things that can happen to me happened to me the best way possible, in a sense where he died June 5th, but June 3rd is when it really sunk in that he's going to die, because he was in the hospital. Like, he got COVID May 10th. May 18th, that's when they put him on the ventilators. And that's when I was like, oh. But I just kept thinking, maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance.
My mom has stage 4 cancer in her bones and in her breast. My dad's disease was 15 years, he died of ALS. I made a podcast about death, seemed like the thing to do. And if you're sad by all of this, well, you're gonna die too. What's up? It's Chelsea Wells. I'm so excited to be back sharing this episode with you because that's what we do. We just have episodes and we share them. Welcome to the Dying of Laughter squad. We're not really a squad so much as a sad team of people with dead parents, but that in itself is a squad. Occur? I will never say occur again until I do. So you're welcome. And I am so sorry. There is just a lot happening in the world. I have so much to say about it all. I just got back from the wine country from a beautiful wedding. I was previously in Montana and Maui for other weddings, and then Austin for the Austin Film Festival. I've just been like a girl on the go. My mom was in town. I mean, lots of things have happened. My win of the week is my dog has a new daycare and it's working. There's less dogs. She's less overwhelmed. If you have a dog with issues or special needs, let's chat. You can hit me up at DyingOfLaughterPodcast. I would love to exchange dog tips with you. I'm also super in love with my girl, Penny. I named her Penny because see a penny, pick it up. I saw her, picked her up, found her on the side of the road in some sewage. My friend Meryl was like, how many jokes are you going to do about being a Jewish girl with a dog named Penny? I was like, okay, guess that's the first. I hate it so much, but also we love it. Quick stand-up plug. My friend Meryl, who I just mentioned, is one of the funniest people I know, and she's producing a stand-up show in Glendale on December 17th that I am performing in. So it's at the Glendale Room, December 17th at 8 p.m. It's a Saturday night. It's a dope show. It's fun. It's not too long. There's really good people. Audrey Stewart is performing. If you know her, she's like one of the hilarious women in Los Angeles. I mean, other than me. No, like she's funnier than me and it's upsetting, but like we support her and we are honest about that, okay? But I will be doing my own set too about holiday drama and how my mom won't shut up about her breast cancer diagnosis while in the Costco line. So yeah, if you're in LA, hit up the Glendale Room on December 17th. There is a link to tickets at my website, chelseawhoelse.com. Also in my bio at chelseawhoelse on Instagram. I would love to see you there. Okay, on to the interview. We're talking with Ahmed today. Speaking of comedians, this guy is hilarious. I met him at a stand-up show. I love what he's doing. He is just, exploiting himself every single day online and in shows, as we do as comedians. We are honoring his dad today, who died of COVID, which of course is a recent loss. When Ahmed was 27, his dad was 52. If you know someone who's died of COVID, please share this episode to remind them that they are not alone. Ahmed has a very wonderful outlook on this horrible situation and how he uses humor and comedy to make himself feel better is one of my favorite things to discuss, and we will be doing that today. Ahmed is an accountant by day, comedian by night. He cannot handle spicy food. Thank you for the honesty. And he also shares that his friend committed suicide earlier last year, which reminded him to reach out to friends more often. A quote he's inspired by: when you're born, you're crying and everyone around you is smiling. Make sure you live a good life so when you die, everyone is crying and you're the one smiling. Beautiful. You can follow him at Ahmed Loves Bread on Instagram. He posts funny videos all the time. That's AHMED Loves Bread. So Ahmed Loves Bread. We love a good handle that rhymes. Chelsea Wells, Ahmed Loves Bread. It's a whole thing. Definitely feel free to share your grief story with me through my Instagram. And now on to the episode. We love a funny episode, okay? And that's what we got right here. That is really funny. I'm glad you said it on here too. No, that's a good grief humor joke. No, absolutely. And talking about how it affects you more so than the loss itself. Because of course the losses themselves aren't funny. There's nothing funny about it, but everything else about it kind of is. How it affects you, how people ask awkward questions, how all of it just becomes a shit show. That's the funny stuff, right?
Yeah, awkward questions is always, that's always something. Like, what's an awkward question like for you that's happened? Like,
You're hilarious. No, people, I mean, especially since, and I'm excited to talk more, and we're just popcorning
Yeah,
everywhere.
I
But
love
this is what
popcorn.
happens with comedians. We don't go linear, so I love that. People will still ask me, okay, so it's like a podcast about your dad, but he's like dead. Like, do you just talk about your dad every week? I'm like, what? Why would I talk about my dad every week? Or because my dad was paralyzed and he was in a wheelchair. I mean, the stuff as kids that I got, straight out, is he mentally handicapped? Or let's be honest, like, is your dad mentally retarded? Like, people would ask things all the time. Granted, there's a grace period when you're kids, but as you become adults, it's like, really? You're still asking that? So what about you? What are some awkward questions you've gotten this year?
I'm waiting for the Ahmed, your dad died 3 years ago. Get over it. It's like I'm waiting for that. No, he died June 5th of 2021, so just a few months. So I could still milk it. And no,
Wait,
but
June? I didn't even realize that it was that recent. It was
yeah,
June
yeah,
of this
June
year.
5th, 2021. Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
Yeah, he died. So he had myasthenia gravis, which kept what made him immune compromised. And he had myasthenia gravis, and he was taking this medication to suppress his immune system because
What is myasthenia gravis?
basically when your brain sends a signal to your muscles, so there is something wrong with the receptors. So there was times where he was not able to move his own body. So he's had that since like 2008, I believe. So since then, he was taking this steroid to suppress his immune system. So when he got COVID, it destroyed his lungs, it destroyed everything. I want to say like we kept him in the hospital for as long as we can, like with ventilators, everything. There were a few people that came up to my mom and my sister, not to us, but they'd be like, "Why'd you pull the plug on your on your like your husband or your father?" We were just like, "We never pulled the plug. Like, what do you?" It's like, where did you get this information?
What? Yeah, I'm sorry you got those questions. I mean, those are hard questions.
Yeah, they're tough questions, but if anything, it's like, also, who cares? You know what I mean? It's like that's not gonna
It's not
bring
their
him.
business.
And it's not gonna bring him back. And that's something I'm learning with grieving. I mean, it's been like, wow, a month and a half. And that's something I've been learning. It's like if you think about things that could have or would have, shoulda, woulda, coulda, like all that just puts you in this dark hole. And you're like, it's not gonna solve anything. It's not gonna help or anything like that. If anything, you just want to like look back, smile, be at peace, trying to you're not getting back to normal. You're just getting to a new normal.
Right. Well, because you're so recently grieving, this will be exceptionally powerful for those who are also recently grieving, right? Because they want to hear from people like you. I want to take a step back though first. And Ahmed, if you could share where you grew up and who you grew up with, a little bit more about your upbringing, and then we'd love to continue chatting.
So I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and my parents immigrated from Yemen. I want to say like late, like 89. Yeah, because they had my brother when in 1990. But I was born in New Mexico, moved to Dallas, Texas, and I grew up in a primarily Muslim community in Richardson area. So there is and next to Richardson, there's a city called Garland, and there is an Islamic school called Brighter Horizons Academy. And I pretty much, went from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And we learned, Islamic studies, Quran, Arabic, all that stuff. And it was like my graduating class was 19 kids. And
Wow.
yeah, but and imagine like you're in a class with people just like you, first generation immigrants. So like all of our parents, they all immigrated from Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, Palestine, like everywhere. Like we're all first generation Americans. So it was a really cool community that we grew up with. So I'd say I had a good childhood. We had 6 kids. It was 6 kids, so 5 boys, 1 girl. I have an older brother. I'm the second child. My we've always been like, very funny, happy going family. My dad was a very hardworking guy. He had this company called All American Flooring. Before he owned that flooring business, he worked in different jobs, but later on, the American dream moved his way up. Yeah, I think that's like a good Spark Notes version of my background. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And that's what we're here for, the Spark Notes version, or else we'd be here all day and night. That was perfectly said. And one question I ask everyone is about their goldfish moment, which is the first time you thought about or conceptualized death in some way. For some people, it was a goldfish. Is there a moment from your childhood that comes to mind? Goldfish moment. Did your goldfish die? Goldfish moment. Did it make you cry?
That's a good question. Like conceptualizing death or the afterlife.
Oh, either one.
Yeah, because to me, growing up, it's like, especially in a religious school, it was always like, you do good deeds, you go to heaven. You do bad deeds, you go to hell. And, in different seminars or different khutbahs, like Friday sermons or whatever, you would have people describing like how heaven, like there's 7 levels of heaven and all that stuff. And then there's the 7 levels of hell and all that stuff where I might be going. But what's a good, yeah, but I'm trying to think, like, I'm being honest, like I'm still trying to figure out, like, just especially after my dad's death, I was really figuring out, I'm like, oh, like death is a real thing. It's something I'm just like, that's the beauty of religion, of why we follow this religion, is to help conceptualize death, because death is so unknown and it's so taboo to talk about. As a kid, I've never been, even till today, I'm not really suicidal, never really had suicidal thoughts, but I've had moments where, like, I want to say my dark thoughts, it was like disappear like go off grid. That's my fantasy. That's my dark fantasy. It's not really suicide. I'm trying to think. I think like the first time just thinking about death, I remember as a kid, I was like in 3rd grade. My friend, like neighbor, his grandfather used to walk around the apartment complex every morning. We would see him and walk. And then one day he stopped, and then they were like, yeah, he died. Oh, like he's never going to walk around that apartment. I'm never going to see him. And that was I remember I was like, in what, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. And I remember thinking that I was like, oh, I'm never going to see this person again. I was like, whoa. And I knew him, like, you know what I mean? I've talked to him, and now he's gone. And that was just like that goldfish moment.
Thank you for sharing that. And that was a really good point reflected back about, did you mean death or the afterlife? That hasn't been asked before. And I think that's a good point. There are different things and yet they intersect. And I also think it's a good point of how death is so unknown and yet it's taboo. And as humans, we want to know the answers to everything. And this is something that, in my opinion, I don't think we can. And yet some people have different opinions there and think that they have more of an understanding than others. And those are the people I want to talk to. So thank you for sharing all of that. So let's jump back to, I like your thumbs up there. Anyone listening, there was a nice thumbs up that happened. So let's jump to 2008. Do you remember what it was like when your dad was diagnosed? Did you start to see a change in your dad at that time?
Yeah. So my dad was always a hardworking guy. Like, before he ended up owning All American Flooring, like he had multiple jobs because we went to an Islamic private school. So my dad wanted us to have a good life. So he was working as like an installation manager for Carpet Mills of America, which is like another flooring company. And then at night he worked at a shoe store. And then he had another part-time as a Starbucks employee. Like he always just worked and worked and worked and was just like racking up, trying to, just to give us a good life. I mean, at this point you have like 3-4 kids, like you got to work.
Yeah.
My dad's always been a hard worker. And I think that's how my siblings and I are too. Like I don't think my family, we're not book smart people. We're street smart. Even me as a comedian, and just, I'm an accountant by day, comedian. And then I post TikToks and argue with 12-year-olds, whether it's funny or not. Like that's, I'm producing comedy. Like I'm constantly doing things. And that's how, and I get it from that work ethic from my father. So one day I came home from school and they said, yeah, your dad fainted. He was going to his car and he just collapsed. So they took him to the hospital and they were like, yeah, your father has myasthenia gravis. Like it's basically this disease and blah, blah, blah. And he needs to have surgery because there was this like slight tumor in his chest. And I still remember this because in 2008, he needed to have surgery. So he was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to Jordan to perform this surgery. And it was like this open heart surgery. And I still remember because that was the second time. Well, first time I remember, second time I went to Yemen with him. So my dad and I went to Yemen. He and his brother later on went to Jordan, but he was like, I'm going to have open heart surgery. I want to go to Yemen and see my family. And that was like that was when shit started getting real. Just like, oh, my dad is sick. Like, this is serious. Like, he has this immune disease. And the first time I started seeing my dad as a vulnerable human being. And I still remember him. I was still in Yemen, but he went to Jordan. And then the day of his surgery, I remember crying because I was like, oh, like, my dad's having open heart surgery. And they were talking about, low chance of survival and stuff. And I remember crying and being very like emotional that day. But then later I get the phone call. It's okay, everything went great. He's good to go. He's safe. He was still in Jordan for the time being. And I remember going from Yemen, flying back to America. And then when my dad came back to America, my family and I, we were just so happy. And we saw all the scars on his chest, and we would just rub Vaseline on his chest, all taking care of my dad. 2008 that was the moment where I go, oh, my dad is really sick. Like, we need to make sure he's working out and he's eating healthy and stuff, which in hindsight, my dad didn't do, but God bless him.
God bless him. I appreciate the honesty there. And what was it like watching him have this, as I'm not as familiar with, will you say what
myasthenia gravis?
Myasthenia gravis. I'm not as familiar. So what was it like watching him have this from 2008 through 2021? I also can relate to having a parent with an illness for quite some time. I think it has its own challenges, but what was it like for you?
There were moments where, we had made sure he would take his medication and everything, which he was good about. But there were times where it would flare up. And I remember my dad he was just like, hey, I need to be taken to the hospital. This was back in 2011, 2012, because I was in college, sophomore year of college. And I remember he was like, yeah, I need to be taken to the hospital. I remember my brothers and I still remember this because we were all fighting. My brothers and I, we were fighting over something. And two of my brothers were holding my dad and they were arguing. And I guess one of them slipped up and one of them let go of my dad, and my dad just dropped because he couldn't walk or anything. He couldn't move his muscles. So I remember he just fell on the sidewalk, and then we immediately all picked him up. And then we were like, dude, this is your fault, Mustafa. He's like, no, it's not my fault, blah, blah, blah. I remember just being an intense day, your dad is falling, your dad can't move a muscle and everyone's just fighting because, just sibling shit.
Wait, so did his muscles work some of the time and other times not?
Yeah. Sometimes it was just your brain is telling your arms to move, but it's not moving. Or your brain is telling your legs to move, it's not moving. So it's something wrong with his immune system. So that was things that we'd had to deal with, or something, or having to change. I remember having to change my father, he couldn't. So I'd have to put on his underwear and his pants and all that stuff and put on his bad smelling cologne,
And when he let you know, today it feels like they're working and then tomorrow all of a sudden they weren't, was it very up and down? And
it was, you would have a week where every day it was hard, but then all of a sudden his medication, we would change the medication or the dosage or something, and then next thing you know, it's getting better.
That's really interesting. I haven't heard of a disease like that where it's up and down. It's usually, I feel like you hear it, they're paralyzed like my dad, or you're not. And this is interesting that it's kind of in between. I was wondering, how did he feel about that? Did he ever talk about his emotional experience going through that? Because that seems very challenging.
Nah, I don't know if he did with me. Maybe with my mom, he would. My dad's very Arab, so he's not going to be I guess not. I don't even think it's an Arab dad thing. I think it's more of a father from the 80s and then that, you know what I mean? An older generation father. It's more I'm not going to talk about my emotions. I sit there and be how emotionally, but He was an emotional guy. I'm not saying he wasn't, but he was a fighter. So he would fight through it. He's not going to be like, I'm not going to let this disease stop me. Like I wanted to, like, he wanted to do charity work, philanthropy work, because there was always people in need. So he wanted to go help them out. So he didn't want that disease to stop him. He didn't want it to hold him back.
Hey, popping in here to share how much I've personally benefited from individual counseling, specifically virtually. During the pandemic, I opted for online therapy. I'm not going to lie. I thought it would be really fucking weird. At first it was, until I found the right fit. I feel that the right fit in therapy is so important. And yes, a bit of an eye roll that you have to try 2 or 3 people, but hey, it's like dating. The first one's not always the perfect fit. And I was lucky enough to find the perfect fit right away. I used BetterHelp myself. This was before I partnered with them, which is affordable and private therapy virtually. You can do couples therapy, individual therapy, text therapy, phone therapy, or Zoom therapy. I did Zoom. If you're more into a phone moment, that exists too. But I know that therapy is time consuming. A lot of people listening to this are busy gals, guys, and folks on the go. I remember when I went to in-person therapy in Los Angeles before the pandemic, oftentimes I'd have to reschedule due to a last-minute audition or work obligation. With virtual therapy, I've found that I can always find an hour in my week, and you can even reschedule online if something comes up. There's an easy-to-use platform similarly to Calendly or Acuity where you just pick your own times. I feel like you guys have heard me mention the benefits of therapy time and time again. So I'll try not to repeat myself too much, but just truly, when I lost my dad, there was so much going on. I never went to therapy until years later when my mom was diagnosed, and I only wish that I had gone sooner. Now going through a breakup, I'm in a very vulnerable place and I need regular support from a licensed professional. My friends and family have been awesome, but it's beyond what they can provide, in my opinion, due to how much heartache I'm going through regarding this grief. So if you'd like 10% off your first month, you can try it at betterhelp.com/DOL, as in dying of laughter. So the letter D is in dog, O is in ostrich, L is in love ya. Yes, I just threw that in. It's just a service I genuinely believe in, and I wanted to pass that on to you. So whether you try BetterHelp, an in-person therapist, or you find another way to express yourself with a licensed professional, I'm here for you. I support it. And I hope you find what works for you. Okay, back to the episode. Right, which is beautiful. Well, that's really interesting. I appreciate you sharing that. And, I'm sorry for what you've gone through, and I'm having memories of my own dad's paralysis when you're talking. So shout out to dads who can't move. It's not great, but I'm glad we can relate on this.
All right.
So take me to present day. June was so recent, and what has it been like since then, and how are you feeling now?
Really good question. It's really cool. Shout out to all my really close friends who I'll get random messages like, hey, how's it going? Like, just checking in. How are you? And I'm like, oh, thanks for checking in. Like, I'm doing a lot better. I want to say why am I grieving? Everyone's different. Why I feel like mine's a little bit easier than others. It's because it was a peaceful goodbye. It's still a goodbye, but it was like one of the worst things that can happen to me happened to me the best way possible. In a sense where June 3rd, he died June 5th, but June 3rd is when it really sunk in that he's going to die, because he was in the hospital. Like, he got COVID May 10th. May 18th, that's when they put him on the ventilators. And that's when I was like, oh. But I just kept thinking, maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance. But June 3rd is when the doctor was like, hey, your dad's lungs it's so stiff. It's like at the point of no return. Because at a certain point, if a patient is on a ventilator, it's doing more harm than good. So June 3rd is when it sunk in. And I remember, because like I said, my background of just growing up in a community of such a nice, strong Muslim community. And my best friends who I've grown up with since third grade, first grade, my whole life, they're all with me at the hospital. Ali Sahiti, my best friend, his father died of cancer back in 2015, I believe. 2015 or 2016, one of those years. And I was there for him. And all of our friends were there for him. And when I was there, June 3rd, when they told him, your father's going to die and stuff. He was there for me. And my other close friends, Ikram, Hamza, and these are all people I grew up with. And that's just my friends, my little brothers and their friends, everybody. We're all there, praying for my dad. And I still remember when after the doctor told me, your father was going to die. And then I was in the hospital room. It was just me and my dad. And that's when I just let it out, just like crying. And like the joke, I cried until my head started hurting. and then I came out and yelled at my little brother for crying in public, whatever. But that's when it sunk in. I was like, oh my God, he's going to die. But then you see like every day after that of just how many people that you grew up with and how many people my father has impacted, just visiting my father, praying, like literally like praying on their knees, just and crying, just praying for my dad because they loved him so much. And then he died June 5th. And then we buried him the next day. Yeah, June 5th, Saturday, he died. And then we buried him on Sunday. When I buried him, because in Islam, the way the funeral process is, so he died June 5th. We release his body to Rahma Funeral Center, which is in Dallas. And they have me and my brothers go to the funeral center that morning, Sunday morning, June 6th. We wash my dad's body for the last time. We make this prayer. We wash my dad's body and we wrap his body in a white cloth. We go to a mosque. We pray Salat al-Janazah. Salat al-Janazah means the funeral prayer. And there was like really big imams and sheikhs that flew in from different cities. And they all loved my father and they all have like a good connection with my father. And they were all like praying and really sincerely being there for my dad. And for that Salat al-Janazah, that's when I saw like how many people were there for my dad's, praying for my dad. Thousands of people at the masjid, sorry. The word is masjid. Mosque is another word, but masjid is like how you say it. But anyways, after Salat al-Janazah at the masjid, we drove to Restland, the graveyard. My brothers and I are in the grave. They hand my father over, like we all carry my father, and then we bury him. I get out of and that's when being in the graveyard, that was surreal for me. Because there's this Arabic saying, or a Muslim saying, they say, "Antum as-sabiqun wa nahnu al-lahiqun," which basically means the people who are dead, they are ahead of us, and we will catch up to them. Because we're all going to join our fathers in the grave. We're all going to be in the graveyard. So just being in that graveyard was just like surreal. It was like, I'm going to be here. And it was a good reminder, and it's a good thing to remind yourself that you're going to be in this grave. And I remember being in the grave, carrying my father with my brothers, and then setting him down, and then getting out of the grave, being lifted up by Ali, by your friends. And you just see all the people, hundreds and thousands of people sincerely praying for your father. And that's when that's from June 3rd, when crying, head hurting, emotional. But the moment I buried him and I got off from the grave and saw how many people are praying for my dad and are there, that's when my emotional state started to rise up. I started feeling better. I was like, alhamdulillah, like God is great. And it's like, alhamdulillah, like look at all these people here for my father, and they loved him. And again, religion, you hear a lot of things because that with Christianity, Islam, Judaism, it's like these religions are sold. So you have like Muslims that would come to, they say this, they say that. So this one guy is like, this hadith, they say, if 40 people are at your funeral and they're sincerely praying for you, Allah will grant them Jannah. And look at all these people, Allah has granted Jannah. Hopefully that's true, because if that is, it's like my dad's granted paradise, I feel like I want to make this into a joke. I don't know how, but I go, as a joke, I want to be like, I feel like 40 people will be at my funeral, but instead of them praying, they're all going to be like, yay, pardon.
Oh man, keep working on that. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Hey, that's
I'm
why you
laughing
didn't
for
hear
you.
it at that show. All right.
No, I think that's funny. Although I also don't, because I'm like, you don't want people being happy that you're dead, but there's gonna be a joke there, and I will be here for it. I appreciate you explaining all of that to, I almost said to us, as if the listeners were right here with us. Hey guys, we're so connected. Okay, that's gross. No, I appreciate you explaining all that to me. And I feel like your connection with your culture and your religion is really beautiful. What do you wish people knew about the Muslim community? And this is not to say that you speak for that community, but while we're here, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, if we're going off a little off topic, but it's like as I'm pursuing or I'm getting more into comedy and I'm getting further in my career, I'm starting to realize because when I first started stand up or just comedy, I was just like, I don't want people to see me as a Muslim. I want people to be like, yo, this is Ahmed Al-kadri. He's hilarious. But it's like, I am Muslim and this is who I am. Even when you saw me do on set, like you heard the Ramadan joke, which is one of my strongest jokes because it's like, it's who I am. It's not. So where I'm getting at, it's like these type of questions I like because it's like, oh, it's like I'm 28 now and I'm starting to realize it's like, yeah, as much as I don't want to be the face of the Muslim community, I am representing it. What I want the Muslim community, it's similar to what you saw from my stand-up, and I hope you get it from, is this is an American guy. You know, this is a guy who was raised in America who happens to be Muslim. He's just like me and you. You know what I mean? Like he has insecurities. He gets angry, he gets happy, he has silly jokes, he has dirty jokes, he has funny jokes. He's an all-around human being. Yes, he has a different skin color than me, but he's just like me. And that's my goal. And that's what I want for non-Muslims to see Muslims, or that's what I want from the Muslim community. It's like you see on the news of like, Arab men, we're violent men. We put our women, blah, blah, blah. We disrespect women, like all that, these stereotypes. And that's the goal, is to just be like, no. We're just dimple dudes with thumbs up.
He says while smiling and thumbs upping.
Yeah. Like that's the goal. So like, and this is my question is, when you saw me do stand up, what did you think?
What did I think about your set or about what you were saying, or what do you mean?
So it's like you saw me do my set. When you were leaving with a friend, let's say, it's like that Ahmed guy or that Muslim guy, what was he like? Like it's like that's what I try to think of when I do stand-up, because it's like, what is an audience member thinking as they're driving home? It's like, are they thinking the guy who was joking about sexual assault and stuff, he's white and I'm not, okay. This is, hear me out.
Honestly, we should not even give him another breath.
No, but hear me out. This is what I'm saying. Yes. Is me just as a human being, I don't like rape jokes. I don't care for. I've heard rape jokes. I've heard good ones. I've had bad, whatever. I personally don't want to joke about that because one, that's not my voice. But two, I don't want an audience member thinking, oh, this Muslim Arab man is joking about assault. Now, I'm not saying you, but some audience members will think that's how all Arab men are. Because that's the thing, as a minority, and especially as a comedian, it's like, if you're a minority, you're representing who you are. But if you're a white guy white women is different, but white guys, usually they're not representing their race, you know what I mean? But me, I am. That's just something that I'm constantly keeping in mind. So that's what I mean when I ask you my question.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point what you said, because it's interesting that I said, and that's not to say that you are representing that community. And yet to your point, you're saying to a point you are. And that is because there are less Muslim comedians, let's say, than other comedians. But it depends on where you go too. Like you doing your comedy, talking about your religion in LA, is different than you doing your comedy, talking about your religion in Nebraska. And that's not to stereotype. There are people of all kinds in Nebraska. So I think they get a bad rap, let's say, for there's like no diversity there at all. But because there is less, maybe you are the first comedian they've ever seen. Whereas in LA, you've certainly seen all kinds of comedians. But no, I noticed that your religion and your culture were certainly pillars of your set, and I really liked it, and it was beautiful, and it was specific, and you could tell it was meaningful to you, and yet that's why the jokes land even better, because it is specific information, right? The jokes, like you were saying about your Ramadan joke, the jokes I think that are closest to us and that we have the most experience with and passion about are what land the hardest, because not only are they more unique, they come with a passion. Like we all kind of have some jokes that are like fluff and we know they're like not our best and we're going to say them anyway. But I loved that about you. And I love when they say the more specific you are, the more universal you become. And that's what I really felt watching your set.
Thank you. That's what I like to hear. Hey, we're done. That's a wrap, everybody. No, but thank you. No, that's the goal. It's more like, that's what I want. It's more, I don't have a Brown joke. I have an Ahmed joke. It's like, that's the goal. It's like, he's a comedian that happens to be Muslim. He's a comedian that happens to be Arab, or that happens, because I have jokes about all sorts of stuff. But I feel you on the fluff. But that's the thing, dude. You're a comic, you get it. Sometimes you got to have a little bit of fluff in the beginning just so you could ease into the personal specific stuff.
Right. And totally. And on different days, it's like you feel like doing different things. And I'm sure as you evolve and expand, and as I evolve and expand, there'll just be more of everything. For instance, right now, I don't have a full hour's worth of material, let's say. I would love to and working towards it. But once you have an hour or 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, you could be like, okay, tonight I'm doing a full fluff set. Tonight I'm doing a full Muslim set. Tonight I'm doing a full Jewish set. Or tonight I'm just doing a dad set. It's I don't have enough yet that I can fully pick and choose the entire vibe. And yet I still have a few different 10-minute sets that I'm oh, this one's a little less personal, but I just feel like going there. And then the personal ones are my favorite, but sometimes I just got to shake it up. How do you feel?
That's a good, yeah, I have it's good that you say that. So right now I'm working on my goal is have a really strong hour, but I have a really strong 40 minutes. That's the last time I tested it. So a strong 40 minutes, but I want to have,
wonderful.
The goal is to have an incredibly strong, but I have set list A, set list B, set list C, set list D, and I have different jokes in that set list, and they usually talk about different concepts. This is something I recently started. So, for example, set list A would be this set. You're hurt. I'll be okay, I'll do the Q for a Brown Guy, Ramadan, and then I could talk about my dad's stuff. Oh well, the Ramadan, and then the whatever the set list is, and then at the end I could talk about grieving. And then set list B talks about the school. And then set list C talks about, it's more observational humor,
Right. Which is nice to have that too. And it's just nice if you just feel and it's just nice to just shake it up. Be let me do these jokes I don't normally do, because that's the only way that you can get better and expand. I mean, a trap that I have all the time is it took me so long to get a 10 that I was obsessed with. And now I'm let's say it's called set list A. I'm just so happy with that. And I know that is worlds stronger than my B or my C. And I just want to do it, especially with new shows and new audiences. I mean, there's no way I'm not going to do it. And not every comedian has that as much. I mean, I have friends that are I don't feel that at all. I can do whatever. I could do it any single day. But I'm a very word for word. I have it written out to a T monologue, and I know that that's what is strong. But you got to keep developing. And some of that has to happen live and not at mics and blah, blah, blah. So that's a trap I'm trying to work through. What about you? What comes to mind when I say that?
Keep the jokes tight, but the set loose.
Love that. Yes.
Yesterday, I had a show last night. I had a set list ready, but I ended up just having fun with the audience and really just joking with different things. And as I was going through my set list, like I did the first few jokes, I noticed there's a specific topic that that the audience wants to hear,
Yeah, what's doing better that night for sure.
Yeah. I ended up talking closing with my dad grieving material. It wasn't even in my set list. But then when I had a joke about like something my dad did, people loved that. And then I started talking about like, oh, it wasn't even my set list, none of my jokes, but I was just talking about my dad. And then I blended that in with dad grieving material, you just slip that in as if it was all improvised, That's the thing with stand-up. Stand-up is written material that you have to pretend that it's improvised, while improv is all improvised, made up on the spot, but you have to pretend like it's written material.
Right. Totally. And when you say like keep the jokes tight, but the set loose, no, I actually really resonate with that. I think what I meant, I'm more comfortable going off script and improvising than I am with doing my newer jokes that are written, but not perfect, because I just want it to be, it's not even that I'm a perfectionist. It's just, I don't know if you can relate, perhaps so. Just my taste level is high, right? Your taste level is high. So I'm sure you can relate. I know what's A jokes and what isn't. The only way to get some of your B and C jokes to an A is to keep doing them. And that said, there's some comics without the taste level and they're doing like H jokes and like Z jokes that are so clearly not ready. You're like, okay, this is awkward. But like even my B and C, I'm just like, I know it's not an A. I don't want to do this, but you can get it to an A when you just tweak it at that one show and something goes different. And then you're like, oh, that's it. And then it's an A.
Yeah.
But I'm hard on myself for that. I feel like you're like loose with it. I feel good about this for you. We don't need to go into my therapy session about this. So maybe we'll move on.
No. Chelsea, we're both stand-ups. I love talking about joke writing, joke concepts, all that. So I could talk about it all day. No, you are, okay, I see what you're saying. Did you hear about Gary Goldman's writing tips? Tips about writing?
At some point.
This was back in 2019. Every day for the year 2019, every day he tweeted a tip about comedy, like about writing, about mental, everything. You can find an article about it. I think I'll find the link and I'll send it to you. It's brilliant. And that is what literally made me a better comedian, was just following his tips about just writing and breaking down like a joke of like, okay, this joke, what's it missing and what's it figuring out? Like, I feel you so hard. I'm like trying to get this joke from a B level to an A level. It is doing it, rep it, like do it, keep on doing it. But also it's like, keep on doing it, but do it differently. Like figuring out, okay, what part that didn't laugh? Okay, this audience that laughed at, the beginning, and just be ballsy enough to just take out the joke, take out the full like tag. It's like, even though you're in love with this tag, you gotta take it out and write something better to replace that joke or punchline or whatever.
Totally. What is and then we're going to go back to, we're popcorning, but I'm curious, what has your flow like been these days with like shows and mics and back in the LA scene? Like, are you submitting yourself to shows? Are you still doing a bunch of mics, some mics, thoughts on COVID, doing a lot of shows, just getting the shows that people reach out to you and do those?
Yeah, I produce my own show. I have a bi-weekly show called Comedy Rhetoric.
Plug it.
Yeah. No, I'm very fortunate enough to where I have a lot of shows. I do a lot of road stuff. I want to say in the month of July, I had about like 16, 17 shows that whole month.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Love it.
Very happy about it. And side note, right now, the LA comedy scene, the show scene is great, but the mic scene sucks. The open mic scene is not good, but it's getting better.
Comedy Nook, baby. Love Comedy Nook. Do you go there?
It's slotted, right?
Slotted on Melrose.
Yeah. See, I'm all the way in Sherman Oaks. I want to I'll do Fourth Wall NoHo. I like that one.
I go there too. I'm surprised we haven't run into each other. I'm in NoHo now too, so I'm like, yeah. I mean, the slotted ones are great, especially when you're just like, I need a tight hour, but then the other non-slotted, there's just more people. So it's like pros and cons to everything.
But also like before the pandemic, there was other open mics that they were long, but if you signed up early enough, you'd get a good spot. Like I miss Public House. Well, Eno Vino is having mics again, like Tuesdays and Thursdays. They have mics at 5 p.m. Really good mics.
I haven't been there since the pandemic. I feel like I forgot about that place. Oh
yeah. My show last night was at Eno Vino. It's a great spot.
Love that. Cool. Well, invite me. I would love to come to your show. Vino, baby.
Well, I have a show tomorrow night, Saturday, 8 p.m. I'll send you the flyer.
Now we're just like inviting you to the stuff.
Yeah, come
Cannot go tomorrow, but invite me again and I will come eventually.
You got it. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, fortunately enough, like I was producing my show every week during the pandemic, but now that it's, the pandemic it's got, well, that's not go over, but like, things have opened up and there's more shows and more things happening. My show is bi-weekly. So during the weeks where I'm not doing anything, I'm traveling. I'm going to New York next month.
Sweet. A Gotham moment.
Maybe. We'll see. I haven't reached out to bookers yet. I'm about to, but really just
get on that Gotham New Faces. Such a good venue. Such a good show.
You did Gotham New Faces?
No, but it's great. And I'm sure I will. I mean, I also haven't really like pursued the New York scene, but no, if you're going, totally email them.
Yeah, I should email. Yeah, I'll email them. But for the most part, yeah, I've been hustling, playing the game,
You are doing it. Vino. Wow. Throwback. I haven't been there in such a long time. And that's cool. Now that I live in NoHo, I'm actually like really close to Glendale. So that's cool. Yay. Vino. And what is your show called again?
Comedy Rhetoric.
Cool. Well, send me a link. We can put a show notes moment for all of that. Good stuff. Cool. Yay. Okay, again to popcorn. So we did mention COVID. I'm wondering what it was like when you found out that your dad had COVID, and how are you feeling about COVID in relationship to all that you have been through?
Oh man, I still remember the day he got COVID, because before he got it, we were all always like, Baba, make sure you wear your mask. Baba, okay, before he got COVID, by the way, he got his first dose of the vaccine. He got first dose of Pfizer. And then before he got his second dose, he got COVID.
You're kidding.
I swear. Yeah, it sucked. So it's just, but like I said, back to that whole shoulda, woulda, coulda, and like all these thoughts, it's like Allah has your death written, before you even know it. Like he knows when you're going to die. He knows when I'm going to die. So apparently this is years, like I want to say earlier in the pandemic, like 2020. Apparently when my brother had COVID and he didn't, he wore his mask, but he played chess with my dad and my dad didn't get COVID. So it's like one of those things where it's like, you really, maybe it was like God protected him until that time. But yeah, I get a FaceTime from my brother. They go, hey, Baba's in the hospital. I was like, well, what happened? They go, oh, he got COVID. And I was like, oh no. And I was already planning on flying to LA. So I was like, instead of changing a file, I was like, I'll just go. He's in the hospital. We can't see him. May 12th, I flew into Dallas. May 13th, it was Eid, which is like it's a festival after Ramadan. And my mom called the hospital, was like, can we please see him? It's Eid. Like, I want to bring him his treats and stuff like that. So the last time I spoke to my dad was May 13th, because my mom and I, we were able to go to the hospital, and I saw my dad, and we were talking to him behind a screen, and he was breathing heavy. He has a hard time breathing, and he saw me, and I talked to him on the phone, and he was just like, take care of Maryam and Muhammad, take care of Maryam, my baby brother and sister, the youngest. He was like, take care of Maryam and Muhammad, take the whole family out for lunch, for Eid, take them all out. Yeah, he was just like, take care of them, take care of the family, take care of the family. And I was like, yeah, Baba. And then I go, Baba, stop talking. Like, it's hard on your lungs, like, relax. And then he was like, okay. And he was just like having a hard time breathing. That's when I was like, oh, COVID's really just like, it's really attacking him. He's going to have a hard time breathing. And that was like really scary, of just being like, man, like, I really hope he could break through this. But unfortunately he didn't. So yeah, that my relationship with COVID, it's like, obviously I take it seriously, wear my mask and wear everything. I mean, even though I'm vaccinated, not too long ago, I got COVID, but because I'm vaccinated, I didn't feel I have very mild symptoms. Like all I had was a sore throat. That's it. I just had a sore throat, but I got tested and I was like, oh, I'm positive. So I was like, I'm going to quarantine. And I ended up missing my Ali, my best friend. I missed his wedding.
No way.
Yeah, because I had COVID. And my little brother Hamza was just like, dude, just come, bro. You're not feeling anything. Just come. And I go, no, I can't have COVID. Get on a plane. I was like, that's the mentality that got Baba COVID. It's like, I'm not, even if my dad didn't die, I'm still not going to do it. I'm not an asshole, but it's more like, I mean, his death and me getting COVID, it's just a reminder of like, we're still going through this pandemic. I mean, this is a real thing. The Delta variant is coming around. I was like, I push for vaccination. I know I have friends who are not vaccinated. I get it. They told me the reason. I get it. I have a friend who's waiting.
I don't.
Well, okay. I have one friend he's not vaccinated yet. He's waiting on a specific vaccination from a specific company because apparently that one will have more strength against other variants because that's whatever. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. All I know is, hey, I got vaccinated and it's helping me. That's and the people who are now
all of the smartest people every doctor and lawyer and scientist, they all got it. So
yeah,
it's like, we don't know. Well, they all made a choice and they're smarter than most people. So
and the people who are now in the hospital due to COVID are all unvaccinated people. So it's stuff like that makes me feel like, hey, let's take this seriously. You know what I mean?
Well, I appreciate your candor. I mean, I feel like I'm really frustrated with people that aren't vaccinated unless there's a really, really specific reason, like related to pregnancy or your health or something. But I'm like, I don't know. I feel like young people's point of view is like, well, a lot of the people who got COVID or died from COVID were immunocompromised. Yeah. And yes, exactly. Exactly. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. And I think that a lot of people are living in a fantasy world or have the privilege of not, I don't even think it's a privilege. That's not the right word. They've just never been exposed to immunocompromised people or people with health issues or just everyone in their family is healthy. I don't get it. Like, okay, well, what about other people's families? Not to make this a PSA, but I just
no.
Appreciate your point of view.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying. It's more. I mean, the pandemic is what we learned about COVID. It's like COVID's not about you. It's about everybody else. That's what people need to conceptualize. Because it's like when I'm getting back, I'm a young guy. Even if I'm not vaccinated, if I got COVID, I wouldn't have had to be hospitalized. I work out, I eat healthy, I get my vitamin C, I get my vitamin D.
I mean, hey, probably. At this point, probably. But at the beginning, we didn't know. And even now, there's still random weird things that happen. So
yeah, exactly. But also, it's like I got vaccinated because I don't want to give it to people. I don't want to, this is a team effort. Nope, and people don't want to be team players. But
right. Wow, it's so interesting. It's so deep. Did you see that New York? There was articles coming out today. In New York, you're going to have to be vaccinated to go into restaurants. First state to.
Oh yeah, next Friday.
I mean, that's a big one. What are people going to do? I'm like, look. What are you going to do, people? Oh,
even next Friday, one of my favorite comedians. I don't know if he's a stand-up, but his name is Connor O'Malley. He's like a very funny, whatever. He has a show at Dynasty Typewriter, but you have to show proof of vaccination card. There's other places, like I went to a comedy show, and before I went into the venue, they were like, can you proof of vaccination card? I was like, oh yeah, I like this. It's like, here you go. I'm vaccinated. I'm good to go.
For sure. Yeah. I've been booked on a few shows. They're like, hey, email me. Hey, like, we want to book you, but you have to show proof of vaccination. So if that's cool, you're on. And then I email back. I'm like, great. Netflix announced their actors are going to have to be vaccinated. New York with the restaurants. I mean, that's a big one. And it's just wild with people's varying opinions. Like people shouldn't make us do this X, Y, and Z. I'm like, but do what? Get the vaccine. We all got it, and we've all been fine. Unfortunately, some people, if we're getting down to the nitty gritty, that weren't fine. Well, guess what? There was millions. I'm not going to say millions. I don't know the number. There was way more people affected by COVID negatively and who died from COVID than died from the vaccine. It's not even comparable. So, unfortunately, we're all doing the best that we can, but. Look at how many people died from COVID versus anything else. Just so frustrated. So sorry.
No. You are You have every right to be mad. I personally, I'm just like, I'm not going to let other people's decision like control my emotions.
Hey, that is the best. Good for you. I mean, that's the ultimate. I mean, that's like a key to life, right? You can
Yeah.
let so many things in life about other people affect you, and it's like, why? What? But why? Like, what are you? How are you benefiting? You're not. You're just spiraling. Anyways, I appreciate your perspective and your honesty and sharing all of that with us. Just a couple more questions to wrap up here. I feel like I got a good idea. We walked through a lot of great things as well as your career. Here's two questions you can choose the order. What are you most excited about for the rest of the year? What are you looking forward to? And do you have any questions for me?
You've answered all my questions. Thank you. What am I most excited for 2021? I set some goals for this year. I feel like I'm going to attain them. Think so. I hope so.
Can you share what they are?
There's some financial goals I like set, and I'm hitting those.
Yeah, wait, what's it like being an accountant and a comedian? We don't have time to like fully go into that story, but can you just share?
Oh, it's great. I love it. I love it. I love it because accounting is a very left brain activity. Comedy is a very right brain activity. But the funny thing about comedy is I try to make like stand up objective. Like I try to break it down. I'm like, okay, this jokes and analyze and try to do that. But it's like accounting is black and white. Comedy is gray. It's like you can't. It's magic. It's blah blah blah. You can't formulate comedy. That's why I love it.
What did you study in school?
Accounting.
Cool. Where did you go to school?
University of Texas at Dallas.
Cool.
Thank you.
Just asking a million things.
No worries. No, but just hitting financial goals. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. My goal this year, if not this year, whatever, but I'm just gonna put it out there. I really want to do my late set Jimmy Fallon. I want to do Jimmy Fallon so bad. Like that's what I'm just putting out in the universe is. Well, I have a vision board over there, and on one of the pictures is the stage, Jimmy Fallon.
Yes.
And I envision myself just being on stage and doing a type 5 on Jimmy Fallon and crushing it. Like I really, really want to do. That's the goal. Was I going to say? Yeah, that and just really just more getting to the new normal now that grieving, because obviously June 5th was like a very pivotal moment of my life, but I'm starting to see better things happen, but also like just keep doing the thing, just keep working hard, keep going up on stage, keep writing jokes, keep posting TikToks every day so you could, push your following and all that stuff. So I want to say it's a combination of my hard work I'm starting to see the benefits of my hard work getting booked on all these shows and stuff, but also keep doing it. And hopefully later this year, the more things that are going to happen. And that's the thing I'm excited about is just keep working hard, put your head down and focus and
Love it.
Work hard, be kind, and good things will happen. Conan O'Brien.
Love that so much. Is there a book, film, or podcast that has been helpful to you in regards to your grieving process or perhaps has been influential in your life that you hope others can take a look at?
Conan O'Brien's Dartmouth commencement speech.
Love it. I haven't listened to it.
Watch it. I'm probably going to watch it today. It's the greatest. It's super funny the first half, and then the other half is very inspirational. So check it out.
Love that. I would love that dose of inspiration today. So let me take a little look-see over there. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Where can people connect with you online?
Ahmed Loves Bread on Instagram and TikTok. Ahmed, AHMED, Loves Bread. Ahmed Loves Bread.
Ahmed Loves Bread. I mean, so good. Do you just love that?
Yeah.
I mean,
it rhymes. It's catchy. It's good to go.
Mine rhymes too. It's easier for people to remember, right? Ahmed Loves Bread. Charles, who else? It's all happening. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story and, specifically pertaining to your recent loss. It really meant a lot, and getting to speak with you was super fun to talk shop too. So thank you again. Yodo, you only die once. Okay, that was so much fun. Ahmed is hilarious. I love interviewing comedians because it's just like less/more depressing all at the same time. But really, if you've been impacted by COVID loss, there are resources available for you in the show notes. We thank you, Ahmed, for discussing recent loss, which can be particularly painful for those who have lost someone recently, which is why we do this. So Ahmed, you're funny, you're cool. I dug this episode. I appreciate you. And be sure to follow him at Ahmed Loves Bread if you love bread, or Ahmed, or just like any of the things that I just said.